I filed for divorce during Ethan Cole's busiest period. Without even looking up, his furrowed brows spelling impatience, he said, "Think carefully, Leo's custody goes to me," as if certain I would compromise for our child. I smiled and placed a bank card on his desk. "The $250,000 you gave me when we married. From now on, Leo's child support will be deposited into the same account. Happy divorce, Attorney Cole." Imagine a divorce lawyer getting divorced themselves. When I posted my divorce certificate photo on Instagram, someone joked in the comments. I smiled faintly and replied, "Unfortunately, a divorce lawyer can't divorce other people's marriages for them." Ethan Cole and I were married for 12 years and co-parented a child for 10. Yet we've ended up in this estranged state of being together yet apart. The reason, if told, would be rather lamentable. He handled the divorce case for his old flame, litigated for 3 years, and they still didn't get divorced in the end. Only Ethan Cole wears rose-tinted glasses when it comes to his former lover, convinced there are intricate, tangled reasons behind everything. He fears the slightest misstep might send that woman tumbling into an abyss, hence his constant demand for caution, and more caution. To me, it's simply that the woman isn't broad-minded enough. She clings to the assets of her abusive, cheating husband, greedy for more. And she relishes her victim status too, basking in the online attention that keeps her, a D-list celebrity, constantly in the spotlight. Forget movie or TV scripts. Over the past 3 years, she's appeared in countless magazines, variety shows, and interviews, well over 100, easily. I posted a photo of my divorce certificate on my Twitter account, which barely boasts double-digit followers, tagging Megan Hayes with a teasing caption, "See, divorce isn't so hard, as long as you're willing to give up all the money." Fans who pitted her instantly flooded my account, their abusive comments deafening in their intensity. My follower count skyrocketed exponentially, though of course, they were all haters. Perhaps they would soon uncover my personal information, brewing an even greater storm of online violence that would directly impact my career, personal life, and even relatives and friends. Truth be told, I couldn't care less. What I really wanted to see was whose side Ethan Cole would choose when Leo's life also became entangled in this mess. Ethan Cole called me soon after. I expected him to reprimand me, order me to delete that ambiguous tweet, and warn me against stirring up pointless drama. But he didn't. His voice sounded weary as he said, "Ava, you know I always finish what I start. Since I took on Megan's case, I'll see it through to the end." I softly murmured then asked, "And then what?" He struggled for a long moment, too proud to coax me, adopting a morally superior tone. "If you're divorcing me because of her, there's no need." As if scolding me for being unreasonable. "The heart's on the left," I retorted. "Ethan Cole, search your conscience and tell me truthfully, these 3 years, was it professional ethics and your finish what you start philosophy, or was it your personal feelings?" He didn't even think about it. "My profession is a lawyer." I scoffed. "Over these 3 years, 7 times you promised Leo you'd take him to the amusement park, to the museum, to summer camp, but you were always called away by a phone call. And I had to cover for you. I couldn't say you were leaving to save an unforgettable old flame. I could only say you were a great hero, that you decried many disgraceful behaviors in marriages, that you helped countless men and women start anew. Until one time, guess what? When Leo saw you on TV walking out of the courthouse alongside a beautiful lady, that beautiful lady surrounded by countless reporters but well protected by her assistants and bodyguards, you still rushed over angrily, wrapped your arm around her shoulders, giving her support, glaring at those sharp-tongued reporters. What expression do you think he had? Guess again. How do you think I explained it to him then? There was silence on the other end. I glanced at my phone. The call was still connected. Perhaps his neglect of the child had stirred feelings of guilt in him. I didn't mind making him feel even guiltier, so I continued. "Ethan Cole, haven't you ever wondered why Leo, who was once so clingy, suddenly became independent and withdrawn? He doesn't beg for your company anymore, doesn't eagerly ask for your help with his homework, doesn't sweetly call you daddy. The dynamic between you two now feels more like roommates with mismatched schedules, barely nodding at each other when you cross paths. For 3 years, I endured Ethan Cole's indifference, shouldered Leo's emotional turmoil, and repeatedly weathered the humiliation doled out by Megan Hayes. Enough is enough. I closed my eyes and mocked. You're already a disgusting husband. Now that you have custody, don't become a repulsive father too. I had agreed with Ethan Cole that every Friday evening, I would pick Leo up from school. On Saturdays, Leo would be with me during the day, and I would return him after dinner. Except that the very first Saturday happened to coincide with a red carpet fashion show hosted by a top international perfume brand. As Hollywood's lead makeup artist, I followed along for a 6-figure one-time fee from a star's kid, and didn't return home until Tuesday. When Friday finally came around again and I went to pick up Leo, for once, Ethan Cole was also waiting at the school gate. He looked unkempt, with unshaven stubble and dark circles under his eyes. The shirt that was usually impeccably ironed without a single wrinkle now hung crumpled on his body. The overwhelming cyberbullying and doxing I had anticipated never materialized. Whether it was because netizens had grown weary of Megan Hayes' daily charades or whether Ethan Cole had pulled some strings behind the scenes remained unclear. His hands were stuffed in his pockets as he lazily eyed me and asked, "Why refuse custody of the child?" I froze, then fury surged within me. "What do you mean, Ethan Cole? You'd abandon your own son for a woman? This isn't what I understand. Ethan Cole is a very responsible person. We've been together for 12 years. He shouldn't be the kind of man who would abandon his own flesh and blood for a woman who isn't even divorced yet." Sure enough, he frowned. "That's not what I meant." I loosened my clenched fist. If he had dared to show even the slightest reluctance about keeping the child, I wouldn't have hesitated to throw a punch at his face. "It's just weighing the pros and cons, Ethan Cole. I'm not like you, doing whatever you please. Leo would have a better future with you. He's cold blood. You can't cut that tie. Even if you abandoned everything to chase after that woman you're obsessed with, you still have your parents, don't you?" I replied. Ethan Cole was born into a family of lawyers. His grandparents were university professors, his father a judge, his mother a corporate legal counsel, his uncle a district attorney, and his older brother, who skipped law, ended up at the State Department. Scattered here and there were a few cousins working in courts at various levels. He was formidable in his own right. After earning his doctorate, he joined New York's most elite law firm. In less than a decade, he rose to become the firm's senior partner, wielding connections with a roster of powerful figures. His career soared, his lineage was illustrious. Even as a top makeup artist, no matter how successful or well-paid I became, I had gotten here mostly by luck. My parents were just ordinary high school teachers. How could any of it compare to the legacy of his family? Take Leo's elite private school in New York, for example. The tuition ran $100,000 a year, well within my financial means today, but I could never get him in. These schools have extremely stringent admission standards for students, evident in every aspect. At the very least, I never would have thought, if Leo hadn't attended such an elite school, that parents would also be interviewed as part of the admissions process. The class divide is far too difficult to cross. He paused, his clear eyes clouding slightly, seemingly caught off guard by how pragmatic my reasoning was. I curled my lips into a mocking smile. "I've told you repeatedly to stay away from Megan Hayes, yet all you do is argue with me. Do you truly believe I can't leave you because I can't bear to be apart from my child, so you can freely devote all your time and energy to another woman? That line of thinking, how utterly despicable." He frowned, his good upbringing prevented him from uttering foul words. "Must you speak like this? Or what?" I retorted, raising an eyebrow at him. "Would you rather I wish you and your old flame everlasting happiness?" All the strength seemed to drain from his body, his posture no longer upright, exhaustion spreading through his limbs. "There's no need for this," he said. "As for Megan's case, I've already handed it over to another lawyer. The remaining documents will be transferred within the next few days." I looked up at him, my heart undisturbed. If he had acted like this when we first spoke about Megan, I would have been overjoyed, perhaps even responded to the call for a second child in my 30s. If he had done so before our divorce, even if I felt no joy, I would have abandoned the idea of separation and given Leo a complete family. Unfortunately, we were already divorced. I am not one to act impulsively. Once I decide on something, it is always after careful deliberation. Even if a bottomless abyss lies ahead, I will never turn back. "Doing this only after the divorce, Ethan Cole, you are more despicable than I imagined," I replied. I never intended to go this far. Ethan Cole may still cling to his obsession with Megan Hayes, but his family, the Coles, stands behind him, particularly his brother, who holds a promising government position. Ethan may not care what others think of him, but he would never allow himself to become a stain on his brother's career record. So I've always believed that the relationship between Ethan Cole and Megan Hayes was purely that of an attorney and his client. This is also the reason why I turned a blind eye to Ethan Cole's behavior. But of all the mistakes they could have made, Megan Hayes should never have flaunted herself in front of Leo. Neither should Ethan Cole have repeatedly prioritized this woman over his own son, time and time again. I only found out afterwards that last month Ethan Cole had promised to take Leo hiking when he got a call from Megan Hayes and rushed over with Leo in tow. At the time, one of Megan Hayes' assistants, taking advantage of Ethan Cole's diverted attention from Leo, pinched the boy's cheeks and told him Megan would be his new mommy in the future. When they returned, Leo mustered up the courage to speak with Ethan Cole, but Ethan assumed I was using our son to pressure him into severing ties with Megan Hayes. Ethan Cole had a huge fight with me. By the time Leo tearfully revealed what had happened, Ethan was instantly overcome with guilt, yet he never apologized. He walked out and didn't return home for 2 full days. When he returned, he brought me a pearl necklace and bought Leo an expensive toy, sincerely expressing his apology. I just found it laughable. This incident made me want to ditch this man. He made me despise him. But his family background could be useful for Leo. I had to leave the child here, and I couldn't let Megan Hayes bully Leo again in the future. Might as well utterly ruin Megan Hayes' reputation to eliminate any lingering threats. I spent money hiring people to hype up my Twitter presence, waiting for the public opinion to reach its peak. All the shady things Megan Hayes had done in the past would be exposed, and she would be labeled as a homewrecker. But the trending topic never took off. Ethan Cole's connections in the entertainment industry aren't as extensive as mine, and I never took Megan Hayes' little team seriously. After careful consideration, I realized these two don't have the capability to challenge me. As I pondered who could be helping Megan Hayes, my thoughts settled on Ethan Cole's uncle, a ruthless businessman I greatly admire. I still remember when Ethan Cole first introduced me to his family. Not a single member of the Cole household approved, except for this uncle, who stood alone against the tide and supported my marriage to Ethan Cole. Later, when I asked why he had faith in me, he lit a cigarette and exhaled smoke rings, the ember flickering like the man himself, unpredictable and ever-changing. He said, "The Cole family needs a business-minded person." Ethan Cole's uncle, no matter how close, was still just an uncle. Husband and wife share both glory and ruin. At that moment, I realized this was a man not to be crossed. I don't do business. At first, it was because I was intimidated by my failed college startup venture. Later, it was because of my bad temper. I was afraid that during business negotiations, I might lose my cool and end up smashing an ashtray over someone's head. But I do dabble in funds and stocks, and I've gained some expertise, enough to barely squeeze into the circle of seasoned experts. I've kept this tightly under wraps, even my parents don't know about it. Now, Ethan Cole's uncle quit smoking after his lung cancer surgery 2 years ago. Whenever the craving hits, he likes to fiddle with an old Zippo lighter. The traces of time on his face are faint. Perhaps money preserves youth. He looks barely over 40. "It's not me," he said. "I wouldn't interfere in marital affairs between you two. Aren't you afraid I might scheme against Megan Hayes and ruin your precious nephew's reputation too?" I've always been blunt with my words. He raised his eyes to look at me, his gaze gradually shifting from a merchant's calculation to something akin to appreciation and concern for a younger generation. "That won't happen. Ethan isn't the type to cheat. Even if things escalate, at worst he'd be called a scoundrel, just a minor blow to the Cole family's reputation. You know how it is. When a family grows powerful enough, some unpleasantness is inevitable. What does it matter? People will only dare whisper behind our backs, but they'll still rush to curry favor when they see us in person. Ava, I chose you to strengthen the Cole family, and you've proven yourself capable and resourceful. The Coles already have Ethan's older brother. As for Ethan himself, as long as you don't go too far, the family won't care what you do." With unwavering confidence, he declared, "I said it." I searched his face for any sign of deceit but found nothing, so I had no choice but to walk away. I tracked down my longtime best friend Sophia Rossi all the way in Paris again, wanting to ask if she was the one who suppressed the trending topic. She denied it and gave me a clue: Julian Vance. Memories surged like relentless waves. It was the beginning of my sophomore year when I met Julian Vance for the first time. After my startup failed, I shifted my focus to elective courses to salvage my transcript. I had come to New York from a small town in Ohio, marveling at its solemn grandeur and indulgent extravagance alike. I witnessed the extraordinary talents around me, and some who were born at the finish line. In this city where gold seemed to pave the streets, my once proud college entrance exam score became utterly insignificant. I want to stay in New York, but I know that by dutifully studying and following the conventional path of working after graduation, at best, I'll only have a place in New York where I can eat and sleep. I want more than that. I want to put down roots here, for generations to come, to thrive and prosper. Just for a few lecture credits, I carried my notebook to the auditorium early to grab a seat. That day's lecture might have featured some big shot in a certain field. I arrived 40 minutes early, and the seats were basically full. I hunched over and found a seat at the edge. When I opened my notebook, it was densely packed with my analyses and insights on the stock market. I'm learning how to trade stocks. Julian Vance sat right beside me, dressed inconspicuously with a mask and baseball cap. Under the dim lighting of the lecture hall, even his eyes were hard to make out clearly. The speaker on stage was passionate and animated, while I sat below with a furrowed brow, scribbling and sketching. Then, Julian Vance suddenly leaned closer, his magnetic voice hushed. "A business school student here for an art history lecture?" I glanced up at him briefly, seeing him all covered up, before quickly lowering my head. Math department. 4 credits. He clasped his hands on his knees, showing a faint glimmer of interest in my words. Mathematics department. Thesis topic? I replied impatiently. Sophomore year. Just piecing things together on my own. After the lecture, he handed me a business card with gilded letters that read, Julian Vance. When I got back, I looked his name up online but found nothing. The card ended up in the trash. My second meeting with Julian Vance occurred near the end of the semester when a biology professor from our university published a groundbreaking article in Science, causing quite a stir. The school immediately organized a week-long lecture series, attracting not only our own students but also crowds from other prestigious universities across New York, all clamoring to attend. I had secured a seat early. Julian Vance, still dressed unassumingly, strolled over with his hands in his pockets and said, "No longer studying the stock market?" This time, he only wore a baseball cap. As I looked at his face, refined and amiable, with unremarkable yet well-defined features, his peach blossom eyes, shimmering with mirth, always gave off an impression of deep affection. There's something peculiar about a person's aura. Take someone with plain features, for instance, when paired with their innate poise and cultivated demeanor, their attractiveness inevitably rises a few notches. I watched the effortless composure and built-in confidence from Julian Vance's privileged background, thinking, which rich family's playboy is this again? I began actively engaging with Julian Vance. That business card had long been taken away by the garbage truck, so I proactively asked for his contact information using a lame excuse. You know the stock market? Wanna chat sometime? By that time, I'd already made a small fortune from stock trading, exuding that nouveau riche aura. My approach was calculated. Perhaps he could become part of my New York connections someday. Whether he finds me amusing or is merely drawn to my beauty, these are inevitable occurrences on my path to chasing fame and fortune. If it weren't him, it would be someone else. Consider it an early adaptation. Navigating the waters with a spoiled rich kid like him might even teach me a thing or two about reading people. But such thoughts didn't last long. Final exams wrapped up one after another, roommates trickled home, and the only ones stubbornly lingering in the dorm were me and a certain business school socialite. Poor thing. She'd had the misfortune of being assigned to live with 3 math majors. But this young lady didn't care either. She went to class looking fabulous every day, went out to have fun beautifully whenever she had free time, and often didn't come back to stay overnight. Recently though, she's been obediently holed up in the dormitory. I thought it was for final exams, but turns out it's because she didn't want to spend winter break studying at her family company, nor inherit the family business after graduation. She's decided to boldly venture into the entertainment industry instead. After spending some time with Julian Vance, I benefited tremendously. He's not some spoiled rich kid who only knows how to eat, drink and have fun. On the contrary, his capabilities are absolutely at the pinnacle of the pyramid. With just a slight hint from him, the money I made from stock trading doubled. I wanted to draw more from him. There had to be something given in return. So later, I put on meticulous makeup for dates with Julian Vance, though he never chose fancy Western restaurants, towering cruise ships, or dimly lit bars as our meeting spots. Instead, he took me to play pool, archery, skiing, horseback riding, and golf. These were all activities I rarely encountered. Still, it wasn't bad. Rich people love playing this way, and learning wasn't a bad thing either. But what I want isn't food, drinks, or entertainment. I want skills. He only taught me once, yet it was enough to make me scratch my head in frustration. I wanted him to teach me more, so I spoke to him directly, but he didn't respond. Instead, he took me to a jewelry auction. The starting price of even the cheapest piece was 7 figures. Several items were auctioned off in succession, yet Julian Vance showed no intention of bidding. Watching his relaxed demeanor, it was as if he were merely an audience member enjoying a theatrical performance. But I wanted to test him, to see just how capable he truly was. So I asked him, wasn't there any jewelry you wanted? He looked up at me, and for once, I saw something predatory in his eyes. If you like anything, just bid for it directly, he said lightly. I held back throughout the auction, waiting until the finale piece was revealed. When the starting price was announced at 8 figures, I turned to him with a questioning look in my eyes. Julian Vance leaned lazily against the back of his chair, his ambiguous gaze seeming to encourage me. At nearly 3 times the price, I successfully bid for this finale jewelry piece. After it was over, my entire body trembled. Suddenly, I understood. Julian Vance was far more unattainable than I had ever imagined. A few $1,000,000 meant nothing more to him than flicking away cigarette ash. The pleasure nicotine gave him made those millions seem well spent. He didn't even glance twice at the jewelry, simply telling the person beside him, "Send it to the Vanderbilt girl as a birthday gift." It was given away just like that, effortlessly, without a second thought. Someone like me could never even dream of what a life worth tens of millions would look like. Julian Vance didn't bring me here to broaden my horizons. He was giving me a warning. I cling to him, yet never consider giving myself entirely. This little scheme of mine, he sees right through it. He doesn't force me to accept him. Knowing my ambitions, he lures me closer with this irresistible approach, making me take the initiative. 5. Sophia Rossi chose me as her makeup artist because she noticed how exceptionally I did my own makeup. How could it not be exceptional? My parents aren't rigid traditionalists who believe a minor's heart should be solely devoted to studies. Instead, they place greater emphasis on my appearance and psychological resilience. When I first entered high school, my mom hired a professional makeup artist to teach me how to apply makeup every Sunday. My mother always said that pretty girls receive preferential treatment wherever they go, and if I could also master a special skill, I'd be set for life. So they enrolled me in ballet. Dancing has strict physical requirements to prevent teenage weight gain. From the dazzling array of extracurricular classes, they chose oil painting as my favorite, ensuring I'd have a specialized talent. As for studies, doing well is naturally good, but if I didn't, it didn't matter. With one of them being a high school Chinese teacher and the other a high school physics teacher, they could somehow push me through the gates of university. After that, they'd spend all their savings to send me abroad for a gilded education. With that, my life resume would outperform 90% of my peers, and the fact that I consistently excelled academically became an unexpected bonus for them. After getting into a university in New York, they knew I had my own ideas. From then on, what kind of life I chose to live was entirely up to me. To charm Julian Vance, Sophia discovered my exceptional makeup skills. She borrowed my hands several times to create natural-looking makeup for her auditions. Later, when she landed a role in a low-budget web drama, she even brought me along to the set. After the jewelry auction, it occurred to me that Sophia, being a rich second-generation heiress, might know Julian Vance. So, I asked her about him. Sophia, for once, put down her mirror and replied with a grave expression, "The man you're dating is Julian Vance?" I nodded. She eyed me strangely for a long moment before finally saying in a vague tone, "Don't get too attached." I could sense that Sophia harbored some fear toward Julian Vance. This young lady who ordinarily feared nothing and was welcomed with smiles everywhere actually had someone she didn't dare provoke. It also seemed that thanks to this connection with Julian Vance, she helped me open a personal studio, intentionally promoting my makeup skills in the entertainment industry. That year I graduated, I'd already gained some fame in showbiz circles. That same graduation year, I chose to break up with Julian Vance. The reason is simple. I've learned enough from Julian Vance. I won't follow him for life, because it's impossible he'll remain unmarried forever. Whoever becomes Julian Vance's wife would be someone I couldn't afford to provoke. So I was the one who initiated the breakup. At the billiards club we frequented, he loved playing pool. 80% of our meetings took place in that very club. After I uttered the word breakup, Julian Vance showed no emotional fluctuation. His well-defined hands were calmly applying chalk to his beloved cue. "Reason," he said. I asked, "Can you marry me?" He replied, "Don't talk nonsense." It was nonsense, and it was hopeless. To Julian Vance, I was his lover, his student, but never his wife. Matches and social standing. There's wisdom in the old sayings our ancestors left behind. 6. It happened to be a Friday. As I was taking Leo out for dinner, I paused when we passed that billiards club. Noticing my gaze, Leo asked, "Mom, should we go in? Should we go in?" After parting ways with Julian Vance, I'd severed all ties completely. But he had this unwavering habit of coming here to play pool every Friday. After all these years, I wonder if he still keeps that routine. Let's try my luck, I thought. It's no big deal anyway. When I entered, the receptionist was no longer the sweet, smiling young girl from back in the day, but had been replaced by a woman of charm and allure. Just like life, nothing stays the same forever. No sooner had I reflected on this than I spotted Julian Vance's figure, instantly making a mockery of my earlier notion. Julian Vance hadn't changed much. I carefully calculated in my heart. He was probably 4 or 5 years older than me, now in his early 40s, still with a full head of jet black hair. The faint lines at the corners of his eyes made his face look no different from when he was 27 or 28. The only change was that his casual attire had been replaced by a suit, the tie neatly fastened against the fabric, and around his left wrist, a wooden bracelet. I recognized this bracelet because I once had one just like it. On the night Julian Vance and I parted ways without hard feelings, all I remember is the blinding incandescent light, the wooden bracelet snapping under his force, and tiny beads scattering across the bed, onto the floor. The next day when I left, I looked at my bare wrist and still felt a bit of regret. After all, it was a $200 fortune bracelet I'd bought myself. A fortune teller once said wood was my lucky element, and wearing something wooden would bring prosperity. Julian Vance once asked me why I wore such cheap trinkets. I explained how I'd paid several $100s for that divination reading, to which he chuckled lightly and said, "You actually believe in that stuff?" He seemed to scoff at the very idea of divination, but how could I not believe? Especially now in middle age, I've come to clearly understand, everything I have today wasn't earned through effort alone. There are too many people who work harder than me, and attributing all this to good fortune is the only way I can indulge in everything without restraint. I'm not sure if that strand on his wrist once belonged to me, but judging by the patina on each of those tiny beads, it must be quite old. Seeing me, he put down the cue and lit a cigarette. "Long time no see," he said. With my arm around Leo, I smiled and replied, "Long time no see." He gently patted Leo's shoulder again and said softly, "Leo, say hello to Uncle." Leo obediently called out Uncle. Julian Vance looked at Leo, smoke swirling around his eyes. From his tone, I couldn't tell if there was joy in their reunion after so long or if he still harbored any nostalgia for me. "Leo, is it? What's your full name?" "Leo Cole," I replied. "Leo, a good name," he said, beckoning toward the corner. Only then did I notice a little girl in a white dress there, about 7 or 8 years old, who had been keeping her head down the whole time. "Layla, come say hello to big brother Leo." That evening, Leo spent time drawing with Layla using watercolor markers, while I watched Julian Vance sink one pool ball after another. The question about that wooden bracelet still lingered on my lips, unasked. Whether Julian Vance is a devoted lover no longer matters to me. He won't marry me, and I can't marry him. Some things are best left unspoken, tucked away in mutual understanding. As the final ball dropped into the pocket, he remarked, "After following me for 2 years, using yourself as bait was the worst possible move." The answer was obvious. Julian Vance was the one who helped suppress the trending scandal. "When did you get married?" I asked him, watching the little girl named Layla call him daddy. "I know you lack for nothing, but I ought to at least give you a wedding gift." He looked at me, beckoning Layla into his embrace, a child from the collateral line, both parents dead, pitiful really. I remained silent. When we parted, he added, "I do have children now, twins, just reached their first month." I thought, of course, a great family like theirs, how could they not continue their bloodline? Julian Vance's sudden intervention on my behalf was probably his way of severing whatever lingering sentiment remained between us. During those 2 years with Julian Vance, I once asked him why he had taken a liking to me. From the moment he first handed me his business card and I didn't contact him, he knew I was just an ordinary girl. Any well-bred young lady from New York City wouldn't have failed to act upon receiving a business card from him. It was my lack of discernment. I thought if a name couldn't be found online, it meant nothing at all. He said I was beautiful. I retorted, "Is beauty enough?" At that moment, he was holding playing cards in his hand. Across from him sat a middle-aged man with a full head of white hair, lips trembling as he slowly revealed his hand. Rich people sure know how to have fun. What became of that middle-aged man in the end? The cards would tell. But there exists a kind of person in this world who's so formidable that not even Lady Luck can shake their skill, unless they choose to go easy on purpose. When that man's face turned ashen, Julian Vance pulled me into his embrace, fixing his gaze on the middle-aged man as if looking at a corpse. "Isn't being beautiful enough?" he murmured, his fingers tapping rhythmically on the table, each tap resonating against my heart. To drown for him was my madness. I desperately reminded myself that love meant nothing to Julian Vance, and that for me, the right person had to stand fighting by my side. 7. Megan Hayes' latest lawsuit once again trended on Twitter, cycling through the same old controversies until countless bystanders grew exasperated, leaving grumbling comments that were quickly buried by Megan Hayes' staunch defenders. On many past occasions when trending topics surfaced, people who knew Megan Hayes' lawyer was my husband would intentionally or unintentionally hint it to me, and I would just smile to show I wasn't particularly interested. But this time, I took the initiative to find out. When I learned Megan Hayes' lawyer was Ryan Peterson, I gave a rather enigmatic smile. I don't even know why I smiled. Ryan Peterson, Ryan Peterson. I turned my head slightly to glance at my father, who was locked in a solitary game of chess with himself, his brows knit in deep concentration. His refined and dignified profile showed that my mother had rather good taste in her youth. "Dad, retired life must be pretty boring, huh? How about starting a company for fun?" I teased with a playful tone. My father raised his head, arched an eyebrow, and replied in the congenial tone honed from decades of teaching, "You've always had a mind of your own. Some things don't require my opinion." I redirected my gaze to the trending topics on Twitter once more. Julian Vance was right. I truly was a fool for following his lead into this trap. I called Ethan Cole, having been divorced from him for a month. He seemed to regret it now, deliberately or unconsciously using our son as an excuse to get closer to me. He would apologize to me sincerely, not asking me to take him back, only hoping I could forgive him. He declined many firm affairs, devoting more energy to accompanying his son. He would drop Leo off at school, pick him up after class, occasionally cook meals for the child himself, and during holidays, take him to various places for outings, which forced me to tag along, because Leo wanted me there. He gradually tested my boundaries, probing how I might return, unhurried, leaving room for negotiation while securing opportunities for himself. Like carefully weaving a spider's web, he knew Leo was the bond between us. Even if the silk clung to my hands, I couldn't bear to break free. 3 months, I got straight to the point. You always finish what you start, so I'll give you one last chance. 3 months, help Megan Hayes get divorced, then cut all ties with her. After that, we'll remarry. Ethan Cole, this is your only chance. After hanging up, I threw myself into setting up the company. Through Sophia, I recruited a few good-looking but obscure young actors to lend some glamour to my media venture. Then I poached a browbeaten industry agent to handle talent recruitment. With everything arranged, I quietly waited for Ethan Cole's results. With less than a week left until the 3-month deadline, Megan Hayes won her case. She didn't gain any significant benefits, but still left the divorce happily. Ethan Cole might have thought it was his doing, but it wasn't. The moment the news broke, I stretched, stood up, and called Sophia. BW did me a favor. Would the young lady have time to make an appearance? BW, short for Beautiful Women, is a globally oriented magazine created exclusively for women, and it only interviews female subjects. Among those who have been featured in BW in China are world champions, film queens, Forbes billionaires, scientists, and entrepreneurs, each a household name in their own right. Sophia now enjoys international acclaim as the ambassador of Asia's image. BW once sought to interview her, but she turned them down. The reason was rather cliché. BW's current artistic director was briefly married to Sophia's elder sister, and their divorce ended on very bitter terms. Being closest to the gossip, I picked up a few more details. It basically boiled down to Sophia's sister being wholly devoted to the family business, believing men should focus on being the pretty ones at home, while her husband refused to back down, insisting on proving he could make something of himself out in the world. How bittersweet it was. She seemed to be enjoying a massage, her voice tinged with pleasure. All right. I chuckled. You're not even going to refuse? Back then, when people went all out to invite you, you turned them down without a second thought. Not wanting to take advantage of her in an unclear state, I added, your ex-brother-in-law hasn't stepped down yet, you know. If you agree to this BW interview, you'll inevitably have to interact with him. There was a sudden thud from her end, as if something had been kicked off the bed, and Sophia's tone reverted to its usual lazy drawl. Well, if I say no, how are you going to repay BW's favor? I'd actually made up my mind about this long ago. I'm not half bad either. Even if my life story isn't worthy of BW's main edition, it could still dominate their supplements section. When it comes to business, you've got to throw out something flashy to wow people. BW knows about my connection with Sophia, so I might as well boast about helping them establish a contact. I didn't respond, and the voice on the other end continued. You're practically my little sister now. Just helping out my sister with some insignificant favor, no big deal really. She sounded exhausted, letting out a big yawn before hanging up. 8. I'm Sophia's younger sister, her god sister. Her parents became my godparents when I was 25. Back when I had my sights set on Ethan Cole. Ethan Cole was willing to be with me, but his family, aside from his uncle, looked down on me, so Sophia had her parents take me in. At the time, she said, our Rossi family background may not measure up to the Vances, but to the Coles, you're marrying beneath yourself. Just to back me up, her parents didn't object either. It just goes to show how uniquely perceptive successful people's judgment can be. Sophia was in the entertainment industry, and inevitably encountered some dirty business. Her parents couldn't bear the thought of their precious daughter getting her hands soiled, so they had to borrow a blade. They raised me to a high position, making me that blade to pave the way for their daughter. If anything went wrong, they could just kick me far away. It wouldn't affect them much. Even after seeing through Sophia's parents' intentions, I held no resentment. At least this blade of mine gets to see the light and taste blood, better than rotting and rusting away in its sheath. What's more, they're even willing to provide a whetstone. After Megan Hayes successfully divorced, Ethan Cole couldn't wait to contact me about remarrying. It's really annoying. After dragging on for nearly half a month, Megan Hayes' fame has been rising, with many opportunities coming her way. And now she's putting on that insufferable air of someone suddenly riding high. I chose a sunny day to meet Ethan Cole at the City Hall. It's about 500 meters from the parking lot to the City Hall, a short distance. I deliberately lagged behind him, watching as he slowed his pace, waiting for me to catch up, watching his shoulders gradually grow stiff. Did you see today's Twitter trending topics? I asked, staring at the back of his head. Ethan Cole didn't even turn around as he replied, I don't like checking Twitter. I pressed on, take a look anyway, you might find it interesting. Only then did he turn around, his brows tightly knit, a flicker of sorrow seeping from his eyes. He looked at me, his tone almost pleading. I'll look after the paperwork is done. I pulled my hand out of my pocket and held it up, showing it was empty. I didn't even bring my ID, I said. We can't remarry. I lied to you. By now, Megan Hayes should have been torn to shreds online. Back when she was in school, she hooked up with the department head to gain fame. Then when she met the celebrity kid, she turned around and accused the department head of forcing her. Blinded by love, the celebrity kid got into legal trouble for assault. What an utter disgrace. Later, to marry her ex-husband, she forced his ex-wife to have an abortion. Unearthing these things was no challenge for me. These were also the revelations I had prepared early on, each incident damning enough for netizens to tear her apart 1,000 times over. By now, BW has probably brought up contract termination with her, and she'll be left paying a hefty penalty fee. Why? Ethan Cole's lips trembled as he asked me. Even if I didn't help her with the divorce, you could have dealt with her anyway, right? Why make me go through this unnecessary trouble? Looks like he's seen the trending news. Several months ago, when he told me he'd transferred Megan Hayes' case to another lawyer, I'd already thought, for Leo's sake, it wouldn't be bad to remarry Ethan Cole. After all, being married to him for over a decade was quite comfortable. Putting aside his misjudgment regarding Megan Hayes' situation, Ethan Cole had consistently provided emotional support throughout those years. He was a decent husband. If he hadn't assigned Megan Hayes' case to Ryan Peterson, his apprentice, hadn't even been at the firm for a year, what could you expect from him? In the end, Megan Hayes' matter would still land in Ethan Cole's hands. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. I shrugged at Ethan Cole and grinned brightly. You're the one who said you always finish what you start. Aren't I just helping you keep your word? Whether Ethan Cole took on Megan Hayes' divorce case or not made little difference to my plans. BW only needed to extend the olive branch, proposing a feature on empowering women overcoming unhappy marriages, and Megan Hayes would undoubtedly seize the opportunity. For one, BW has an international audience, potentially boosting her visibility. Moreover, being featured in such a reputable magazine could help salvage some of her tarnished reputation. The condition was that Megan Hayes had to finalize her divorce to establish this inspiring persona. Fame and reputation are the foundation of a star's career. With these secured, building towering success becomes effortless. It's clearly more cost-effective than trying to squeeze money out of her abusive husband, so she's definitely going to divorce him. Even if Ethan Cole won't help her, she'll hire someone else. As for me, I never forget a slight. Since Ethan Cole disgusted me, naturally I'll return the favor. I first met Ethan Cole when I was 25. At that time, Sophia Rossi, who had become a rising star, participated as a celebrity guest in a workplace reality show called The Intern. I was her personal makeup artist. In the first season, the show recruited law students as interns, including Ethan Cole. After filming the first episode, the production team arranged for the celebrity guests and interns to meet. Halfway through the behind-the-scenes footage, Ethan Cole's uncle rushed in, completely unconcerned about embarrassing the young man in front of everyone, and slapped him outright. He then laughed it off and spent some money to smooth things over. Around that time, the other celebrity guest, Megan Hayes, dropped out of the remaining dozen or so episodes. No one knew the exact reason, and that piece of gossip left me feeling quite unsettled. Back then, I was so naive. I never imagined a celebrity could possibly have any connection with an ordinary person. Ethan Cole's swollen face was seriously affecting the subsequent shooting, and after hearing me compliment Ethan Cole with quite handsome, Sophia pushed me over to be his makeup artist, using my miraculously skillful technique to restore the audience's vision of a perfectly flawless heartthrob. How could I possibly erase all traces? Despite exhausting my skills, I only managed to make the left side of his face appear slightly less swollen, concealing the 5 fingerprints. In the end, the production team covered it up for the audience with the excuse of wisdom tooth inflammation. I gradually grew familiar with Ethan Cole. Through our words and actions, I could sense his refined upbringing, substantial family wealth, and his own formidable capabilities paired with unique insights. Despite our different majors, mine in mathematics and his in law, we could still engage in lively and meaningful conversations. Affection crept in quietly. It was Ethan Cole who confessed his feelings to me first. After meeting his parents, I clearly sensed they didn't think much of me, but Ethan Cole's resolute attitude moved me deeply. Sophia always says that Ethan Cole was my second best choice. Actually, no. I like the fighting spirit in Ethan Cole, his gentlemanly demeanor, the details he puts into romance, and the emotional comfort he brings me. When I confessed to him that I had once been in an intimate relationship, he replied, "It's perfectly normal for adults, I've had my share too. Emotionally, we are equals. Materially, I deserve him too. As for the gap in family background, I believe my personal abilities can bridge it." By Julian Vance's side, whether emotionally or materially, I would never be his equal. Ethan Cole and I had an unspoken agreement never to ask about each other's exes. Ex-lovers, one for you, one for me, what could be fairer? Anything beyond that would just be impolite. 3 years ago, Ethan Cole took on Megan Hayes' divorce case. Perhaps he felt that what he didn't dare to resist back then, now he has the power to take matters into his own hands. Ethan Cole carries a hint of rebellion within him. Take his family's insistence that he major in finance. He despised the idea, arguing with his parents countless times, only to reluctantly settle for law, his second most hated option. Later on, when he started working, his family urged him to become a lawyer specializing in securities markets and cross-border investments, but he refused. Instead, he chose to become a divorce lawyer. He fell for Megan Hayes, perhaps because in her he saw what he yearned for. Freedom, for instance. By any means necessary, pursue what you truly desire. 10. Alright, Ethan Cole, let's stop here. Just 100 meters from City Hall. I didn't take another step forward. Just like back then, Julian Vance and I parted on good terms. Neither of us looked back. Neither of us tried to stop the other. I once had my fortune told, and they said my romantic life would be full of hardships. People always prefer to hear what pleases them. The fortune teller said I would strike it rich, and I believed it. The fortune teller warned me about a rocky love life, but I refused to believe it. How could someone as outstanding as me end up unmarried? Now those words have come true. Ethan Cole still seems unwilling to let go. As I watch the confusion and sorrow in his eyes, I feel absolutely nothing. He wants to remarry me, not out of deep love, but because after sailing countless seas, he's looked back and realized I'd make a suitable wife, and his son needs a mother, after all. Don't look at me with those pitiful eyes, Ethan Cole. You know I never turn back. You won't be my exception. I uttered heartless words with icy detachment. You should be grateful we have a child. As for me, I've already earned wealth that would last Leo several lifetimes, but all I'm destined to do in this life is make money. Should the path Leo chooses require the Cole family to pave the way, perhaps you ought to consider how to build thoroughfares stretching through every corner of New York City. Then whichever road Leo picks in the future, it'll always be a royal highway. His eyelids trembled suddenly, and I watched the glimmer of hope in his eyes dissolve bit by bit until it vanished. So, you're not taking revenge on me because I'm useful to Leo. I lifted my gaze, looking at him with utmost indifference, and retorted, what else? Anyone who displeases me is guilty of a capital offense in my heart. 11. When Sophia learned about the wooden bracelet, she sighed and said to me, Julian Vance is quite devoted. Devoted? It's simply because I have my ways. Beautiful women are a dime a dozen. Why does he cling to thoughts of me alone? Because I'm clever, studious, and know my place. I've always had designs on him, surrendering with clear-eyed abandon, and then withdrawing completely when he was most infatuated with me. The heart is on the left, I replied. Ethan Cole, search your conscience and tell me, over these 3 years, was it out of professional ethics and a sense of completion, or was it your own selfish desires? At the very least, he would never meet another Ava Miller who satisfied him as much in this lifetime. I would be the one he could never forget. My father's company occupied the best location in Manhattan. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows of the chairman's office on the 19th floor, the bustling streets below seemed as insignificant as ants. The agent I deliberately poached, Sean Reed, handed me Megan Hayes' signed contract. According to what you said, the gamble contract, 10 years, he said. Why Sean Reed was chosen was probably just a chance encounter. I kept feeling he resembled my younger self, desperately trying to stay in the extravagantly decadent New York, becoming worldly wise and ruthless for it. Only he wasn't as fortunate as I was, hitting walls everywhere after working for a few years. Finally, I'd become Julian Vance too, getting a taste of the joy of mentoring an apprentice. He's very clever, often I just need to start something, and he immediately understands what I intend to do. Megan Hayes' small team couldn't afford BW's penalty for breach of contract. She needed a backer, but with her reputation in such disgrace, who would dare associate with her? At this point, I had someone coax her into signing with my newly established minor company. Infamy is still fame. As long as there's attention, money will follow. Convinced her fate wasn't sealed yet, she walked right into my trap, dreaming of making a comeback someday. Julian Vance once taught me that to ensure someone can never recover, you must cut off every possible path they have. Signing Megan Hayes without giving her resources or promoting her means her debt to me will only grow larger. 10 years from now, when she's lost her looks and youth, not even selling herself could pay it back, she'll become a complete deadbeat, dying in disgrace and poverty. Miss Miller, shall we pay her a visit? Sean Reed asks me. Let her know you're the chairman's daughter. Just as I expected, the person I chose knows how to crush both body and soul. I looked out the floor-to-ceiling window again, clear skies, not a cloud in sight. From 18 to 37, 19 years in New York, I've reached heights I couldn't even dream of. Enough is enough. Some fates just have to be accepted. Wait a little longer, I heard myself say. Until next year when I become the company's executive director, then I'll surprise her. The end.